going back and forth between investing in airlines and cruise lines. Oil tankers I've rejected for good, because if you study these companies, for example, TNK is a ticker, and many of these companies, they have really, yes, a very high PE ratio, and that's of course one of the things you look at as an value investor. The PE ratio is very attractive there. It's 3 or 4, so they make indeed, this TNK for example makes maybe 200 million or so, thanks to very high rates, tanker rates, oil tanker rates, and the value of the company is 800 million and make 200 million earnings. That's profits after expenses and everything. That's a PE of 4. That's crazy. But what I really don't like about these companies, that they have been, if you look at the value of the shares, it's been a total disaster the past 10 years. Used to be worth $200, now it's like $10 or so. And if you look at the market cap, actually it didn't go down that much. So what happened was that actually they've been printing lots of shares, and what have they done with all that money that they raised? Well, they certainly did not create value for the shareholder, because the shares have plummeted. They even, like, revenues went up, but I mean much less than the amount of money that they raised even. Or the book value, for example, went up less than the money that they raised. How is that even possible? So it seems that these, and I see that with many of these oil tankers, that they are really untrustworthy. A company that does that, you, as an investor, are fucking over investor so badly, or misallocating capital so terribly, it's really not worth the risk. Also, of course, these oil tankers are profiting from the crisis, the oil crisis, the glut of oil due to a collapse of demand causes them to make lots of money, as there is a shortage of oil tankers and storage. But once the crisis flies over, income will go down a lot, and so it's actually not a play. It's not something to invest in. Of course, yeah, these tanker stocks have not gone up yet, which is weird, but I want to invest in something during the crisis that is suffering, and that will recover when the crisis is over. And this is actually the inverse. Yes, the stock valuations may go up, but it's very risky, because once the crisis is over, actually the chance that the stock price will go up goes down a lot. So I don't want to take such a risk. Also, I want to invest in the future, not in the past. And oil is the past. Yes, oil consumption will likely continue to go up for the next 5 to 10 years, but there's a risk also there that it may collapse quicker. Like these are all reports and estimations. There's a risk there that actually society changes faster, and that therefore oil demand actually continues to go down quicker than expected. So this is also a risk that I don't want to take. But these cruise lines, that's another story. The cruise lines and the airlines is very interesting. The cruise lines, Carnival for example, but yeah, the PE is bad, of course. I mean, there are no earnings, there's no profits, there are not even revenues. So that's really bad. But there's another very important indicator as a value investor that you look at, and that's what's the market value versus the book value of a company. And as a value investor, you want to buy companies below book value. That over the long term, and done repeatedly, has proven to be successful, has proven to give you higher returns. And because you buy actually real value. My critique to that was that actually the book value is not correct, because if you try to sell those cruise ships today, for example, they will be worth much less than the book value. But that's of course always the case when a company drops below book value, the market value drops below book value. Usually that's for a good reason, and of course, if the crisis flies over, the value of those cruise ships will go up again. So this seems to me like a perfect play to profit from this crisis, and actually where your capital truly is needed is in supporting companies like this. Book value is 25 billion, market value is 10 billion. I think that we might see another correction, and maybe you can buy up the shares at maybe a market cap of 8 billion or 6 billion, and that would be a steal. Also, I like the CEO, just watched an interview of him, of Carnival, wise man it seems. So yeah, I'm attracted to it. And the same for also what I really like, and as the same with Ryanair, is that there has not been a investors have not been fucked over. The track record is there, especially for Ryanair. The amount of shares printed is very low, so the market value goes up at the same rate as the prices per share. In the case of Ryanair and in the case of Carnival, a little bit low. They have been printing a little bit, but not too much. It's about the same. It's acceptable. So that's cool. That's cool. I'm going here to check one of my favorite shops here in Nairobi, restaurants, and oh, surprise, surprise! Due to safety concerns, we remain closed. That's a pity. Not even takeaway, huh? Nothing. But you can see it in the city. People are all wearing masks, but only in the city center. The moment you go outside the city center, much less masks. But in the city center, yeah, you have to. You have to. Many cops, army, huh? The social pressure is higher. Huh? So I'm gonna go back, but I'm gonna go this way. What else? Yeah, I think it is a good question to ask yourself. So what did you do during the big pandemic of 2020? Huh? What great investments did you make? Because this will fly over, and the opportunities that we see today will go away. And what are the once in a lifetime opportunities here? Huh? Well, it's quite obvious. It's the industries that are hurt the most by this crisis. That's where the once in a lifetime opportunity is, and that's for airlines. The worst crisis ever for them. For cruise lines, the worst crisis ever. Hasn't happened even like the past 100 of years, never. Huh? Even during the Big Depression or during the big recession of 2008 or the Big Depression in 1930s, always there was continued activity. Okay, it might have slowed down a lot, but not by 100%. Huh? Not a total, nor 90% in the case of airlines. Huh? No, that's really extreme. And valuation are like that also. If you look at Carnival, it's selling at 40% of its book value. That never happened. Okay, there's only a 30-year track record there, but that's really cheap because it never happened. In 2008 it went to about 20% discount versus book value. Now it's 60% discount versus book value. Huh? So that's likely, yeah, only going to happen once in our lifetime that you can buy a company like that. That seems to be well managed. Huh? And same for Ryanair. Ryanair actually is not there yet. I think it needs to correct a little bit more. Let's hope so. But it was never sold below book value, which would of course be crazy. This is a discount airline, a budget airline that has, well, grown very well, and is, I think, in a strong position to continue to expand, and is led by a legendary CEO that has no fear to be controversial and to speak out, and to offer great value to people. Ryanair is famous for offering €10 tickets all over Europe, but also to be like very frugal and come with all kind of innovations to save money and offer tickets cheaper. So probably, I mean, I think we are likely going to see a 50% correction from the high to the low here, huh? So yeah, I think that the world is overly pessimistic. Yeah, billionaires, even people that made great money in the past, like Warren Buffett, but many others actually are very pessimistic and believe that the world has changed and it will take years before we're back to normal, and actually many things will change for good. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that we in the West, for example, will start to wear masks like they do in Asia. No, because it's not such a serious crisis. If it would be a real, if it would have been a real, like, serious virus that kills, let's say, 20% of the population or 10%, okay, that's serious. Like that's really a trauma for a society. It takes maybe a generation before that's forgotten and old habits return. But in this case, well, do you know someone who died from this virus? I don't. I'm gonna ask on YouTube here. Yeah, some people say that they got it and they all got healed, and it's just very few amount of people that die from this, so mainly old people, and it's not so serious. So I think so, but the population, of course, gets tired of this, and you can see the rebellion starting in the West, in US, and that's a very good thing, and I hope it continues, and yeah, I do think that it will get back to normal quicker, because yeah, it's not founded. This virus is not so bad to shut down economies. It's really not justified. It's very irresponsible, and people start to realize that. So that's why I think I'm actually much more optimistic than all these professional investors, and I think that actually there will be lots of pent-up demand. Like, for example, for these airlines and cruise lines, people actually, I think, will cruise more after this crisis than before. People will fly more after this crisis than before, not less. That's what they think. Like, oh, now we have work from home, so people business trips will go down, and I've made a video about that too. That sure, that's partly true, but there are, like, with wealth comes travel. Are we going to become more wealthy or less wealthy once this crisis is over? More wealthy. That's just the way things go. Society is not breaking down. Trade is always going up. Products and services become cheaper over time. Commodities prices become cheaper over time, and that all causes wealth to increase. And with wealth comes travel. So people will travel more after this crisis than before. And so these planes that Buffett thinks there are way too many planes, is not the case. Yes, today they are grounded, but in 1 year's time there'll probably be too little planes, and they will start ordering more planes again, because of pent-up demand. People will not just pick up flying again as before. Many people will start flying because they realize that, or they will do double as many flights as they did before because they missed it. Yeah. Same with cruises. That's my opinion, and that's why I think these are great investments that will be greatly rewarded. like you can double your money in these investments in 1 to 2 years time. Huh? Carnival will likely be in 1 to 2 years time be back at, well, it was 40 billion I think the peak, now it's 10 billion. I'd be back at 20 billion in 1 to 2 years time. So you doubled your money, huh? Very likely. Same with Ryanair. It was $100, 100 euros plus or so, and now it's 50 euros or so. Yeah, but this airline continues to grow fast, especially thanks to such a crisis. This is not some kind of state-owned airline. This is a budget airline that's doing a great job in increasing revenues and increasing market share, and crisis like this helps such an airline because the big players that are already on the verge of bankruptcy now go bankrupt, even if they get state support, government support and subsidies. Still, this crisis affects them a lot more than a streamlined, frugal budget airline. Hope you enjoyed it, guys.